He went up for auction, and the bidding hit galactic record levels. Lucas Grant's awareness returned in fragments. First, the metallic tang on his tongue, then a chill pressed to his cheek, eyelids weighted like lead. He fought to remember, but memory came only in blinding flashes, the hush of snow during patrol, the sudden whiteout, and then nothing. Now, strange voices hovered at the edge of his hearing, lilting and alien, their words a puzzle half solved. "He's stirring," said one, musical and measured. "Increase the sedative by .4 increments," commanded another, clipped and resonant. "The human's metabolism is unusually efficient." Lucas kept his eyes nearly shut, feigning unconsciousness. Through narrow slits, he caught glimpses of his prison. Walls that curved in seamless, organic arcs, pulsing with soft bioluminescence. Consoles flickering with unreadable glyphs. Strange shadows moving with purpose. The air was heavy with antiseptic and ozone. With a surge of will, he tried to sit up, but restraints bit into his wrists and ankles, smooth and unyielding as glass. Panic threatened, but he forced it down. He needed information first. Two figures stood over him. One loomed, a towering, beetle-like thing, with chitinous plates and angular limbs, compound eyes regarding him with impassive calculation. Beside it, a slender, teal-skinned being manipulated a floating console with 3 elongated fingers per hand. Eyes the color of deep ocean appraised him clinically. "Impressive resilience," the teal one remarked, voice fluid and almost soothing. Just as the trader promised. Lucas drew a steadying breath, chin lifted. "Sergeant Lucas Grant, NATO Operations. Who are you? Where am I?" The teal being, Syrah, he gleaned from the beetle's muttered direction, dismissed his questions with a wave of her delicate hand. "Your planet is not recognized by the Confederacy. You possess no rights here." He struggled against the restraints, but they held fast. The beetle creature's mandibles clicked. "Begin evaluation. Confirm the trader's claims." A panel above him glowed. Syrah's hands glided through holographic symbols. Green light washed over Lucas, tracing his body with a prickling warmth that left him exposed in every sense. Syrah's voice became a clinical litany. Human male, approximate age 33 Terran years. Elevated adrenal response. Cerebral cortex demonstrates tactical adaptation. Fascinating. Efficient protein synthesis. Neural pathways. Through a transparent barrier, Lucas glimpsed the truth. Other captives, some barely human, others grotesquely alien, all arranged like specimens in a macabre menagerie. "You're a rare acquisition," intoned the beetle, its gaze cold. The trader was handsomely rewarded. The deck shuddered beneath them, a low thrum shifting the gravity. Syrah adjusted the console, and a cool vapor hissed from above. Lucas's world faded at the edges, his pulse slowed. Beyond the viewport, stars wheeled past. No constellations he recognized, a cosmos utterly foreign. Darkness claimed him again. He woke disoriented, no longer on the table but standing, unbound yet boxed in by armored reptilian sentries. Their scales glinted like hammered bronze, their eyes slitted and unforgiving. "Move, specimen 1187, one rasped, jabbing his side with a shock rod. Lucas stumbled forward, herded down chrome corridors that buzzed with energy. The walls hummed, alive with unknown power. They entered an amphitheater vast enough to swallow a city block, tiered seating filled with a kaleidoscope of alien spectators, crystalline cages suspended on platforms, the air charged with anticipation. An attendant, a creature whose face was all mouth and sinew, clamped a band of cold metal around Lucas's neck. Neural spikes pricked his skin. Suddenly, every word around him filtered into perfect English. "Displaying genuine human male from Terra," the attendant announced, voice amplified and emotionless. Specimen demonstrates combat training, rapid adaptation, and unique genetic markers. Lucas stood on a dais, heart hammering. Alien eyes appraised him, some curious, some hungry. He met their gaze unflinching, refusing to shrink. Then he saw her. Amid the crowd, one figure held herself apart. A woman, tall and slender, her skin a living canvas of shifting pearl and opal. Her eyes were deep and dark, watching him with an intensity that set her apart from the rest. She moved with the poised grace of royalty, yet there was a subtle tension in her stance, a readiness, a question. Bidding began, a cacophony of strange calls and gestures. The iridescent woman did not move, her gaze locked with his. Lucas felt something pass between them, a silent recognition, a puzzle neither understood. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Alarms blared, red lights slicing through the chamber. Masked raiders burst from the upper tiers, firing energy bolts that shattered cages and scorched the air. Shouts rose in a dozen languages. Lucas was shoved from the dais, tumbling hard behind a low platform. The neural collar sputtered, then shorted out with a painful jolt. His head cleared, senses sharpening. Instinct overrode confusion. A raider lunged. Lucas tackled him, driving a fist into soft tissue. He wrenched a compact blaster from the fallen attacker, rolling behind cover as beams sliced overhead. He picked targets, firing short bursts, dropping two raiders before they could flank him. Across the chaos, he spotted the iridescent woman, cornered by a beast, small, sinewy, claws gleaming, eyes feral. Lucas didn't hesitate. He fired, scoring a glancing hit that drove the creature back. He vaulted the barrier, reaching her side as another raider closed in. "Get down!" Lucas shouted, shielding her with his body as a bolt seared the air. She moved with uncanny speed, twisting to deliver a precise blow that sent the attacker sprawling. "Impressive initiative," she murmured, voice rich and melodic. "Not much choice," Lucas grunted, squeezing off another shot. "Do you know the way out?" She glanced at him, assessing. "Stay close." They fought together, moving as one. Security forces rallied at Lucas's urgent commands, forming a perimeter and driving the raiders back. The last attackers fell or fled, and the hall settled into an uneasy silence. Lucas turned to the woman, breathing hard. Up close, her skin shimmered with rainbows, her eyes fathomless, studying him with new interest. "This one," she told the auctioneer, her tone measured but warm, "demonstrated remarkable initiative." The auctioneer, still shaken, recalculated Lucas's worth, eyes wide with a mixture of awe and greed. Guards stepped in, leading Lucas away. He caught the woman's gaze one last time, felt the weight of her attention, a spark of something more than curiosity now, something deep and undeniable. Security was doubled. The corridors outside Lucas's holding cell crawled with armored sentries, thick-limbed brutes, reptilian and relentless, scanning every shadow for threat. The stench of scorched ozone from the earlier raids still lingered in the air, mingling with the low thrum of containment fields. Lucas paced the length of his cell, every nerve alert, the ghost of adrenaline still humming in his veins. Hours after the attack, the guards returned, their posture rigid and their gazes averted. "Time," one growled, unlocking the door. They marched him out. No restraints this time, but the implication of violence was clear. Lucas squared his shoulders, jaw set, and let them lead him down the gleaming passageways. The auction house had changed. More guards at every turn, checkpoints bristling with weaponry, and medics tending wounded staff. The atmosphere was taut, on the edge of panic. The main amphitheater had been scrubbed of blood and chaos, but the tension remained, palpable as a storm. This time, Lucas was the centerpiece. Spotlights followed him as he mounted the dais, the neural restraint replaced with a thin circlet, ornamental, not controlling. His auction attire was replaced with something closer to a uniform, slate gray, sharply tailored, designed to flatter and dehumanize at once. He felt exposed, studied, but forced himself to meet the alien gazes with cool defiance. The auctioneer, now flanked by security, his face pale and drawn, spread his arms theatrically. Esteemed delegates, honored buyers, and representatives of the Confederacy, we present today our rarest offering, a genuine human male from Terra designated Lucas Grant. Not merely a specimen, but a proven tactician, demonstrated initiative and leadership in the face of mortal peril. A ripple of interest moved through the gallery. High-backed chairs and private alcoves lined the tiers, filled with a dazzling variety of buyers, some resplendent in ceremonial robes, others bristling with medals, all radiating power. Military officials sat beside private collectors, their insignia strange yet intimidating, faces hidden or augmented. Murmured translations of the auctioneer's words echoed in half a dozen languages. "Bidding will commence at 200,000 credits," the auctioneer announced. His voice quavered slightly, eyes darting from security to the crowd. The first offer came from a squat, tusked official in imperial red. 250,000. The words were clipped, aggressive. 300,000, called a shimmering figure with 6 arms, the voice harmonizing in stereo. 500,000, another buyer barked, an insectile admiral with fractal eyes. The numbers climbed rapidly. Lucas swept the crowd, searching for familiar faces. His pulse jumped as he spotted her, the iridescent woman, seated in a secluded balcony, half veiled in shadows, yet her gaze unwavering and direct. She wore a gown of shifting silver blue, her posture regal, hands folded with casual grace. The sight of her steadied him, the memory of their brief alliance in the chaos an anchor. Bidding leapt to 700,000, then 1,000,000 credits, each offer delivered with mounting tension, the air thick with anticipation. As the numbers soared, a new figure glided into the woman's balcony, a gaunt counselor, silver-skinned and severe, draped in ceremonial black. He leaned close, whispering urgently in her ear. She listened, unblinking, her expression unreadable. Lucas strained to catch a word, but distance and the hum of voices blurred everything. 1,000,000 credits, intoned the Confederacy's delegate, a tall, antlered being whose sash glittered with official sigils. The crowd hushed, all eyes on the balcony above. The woman remained seated, her stillness a quiet challenge. Then, as the tension reached its peak, she rose with languid precision. The gallery seemed to tilt toward her, every conversation suspended. Her envoy, the silver-skinned counselor, stepped forward and spoke, his voice ringing clear and cold. 3,000,000 credits, offered in the name of Lady Aurelian of House Aerith. A shocked silence followed. Even the auctioneer faltered, his stylus hovering in midair. 3,000,000, he repeated, his voice wavering. The Confederacy's delegate bristled, antennae stiffening. 4,000,000, he countered, each syllable sharpened to a threat. Without hesitation, Lady Aurelian inclined her head. Her envoy's voice cut through the hall. 6,000,000 credits. A susurrus of disbelief swept the gallery. Delegates conferred in frantic whispers, buyers shook their heads, and even the security staff shifted, uneasy. Lucas's eyes flicked toward the rear of the hall. There, just for a moment, a shadow detached itself from the wall. A figure in a plain cloak, human by the set of his shoulders, a familiar insignia glimpsed at the collar, the NATO eagle. The man's gaze met Lucas's, just long enough to spark hope. Then he melted away into the gloom, vanishing as the bidding reached its fever pitch. The auctioneer's voice broke. 6,000,000 credits. Do I hear another offer? A tense pause, then the Confederacy's delegate signaled for time, conferring with aides in a low, urgent buzz. Lady Aurelian remained motionless, every eye drawn to her. Finally, the delegate straightened, voice tight. The Confederacy offers exclusive mining rights on Serine, valued at 8,000,000. The gallery gasped, but Lady Aurelian only smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips. She lifted her hand, and her envoy declared, "We offer the Orion Delta system, one sun and its orbiting worlds, in perpetuity." A stunned silence fell. The auctioneer's stylus slipped from his hand, clattering to the floor. "The entire Orion Delta system?" he stammered, struggling for composure. That that is beyond valuation. "No one can match it," murmured a buyer, awe in his tone. The auctioneer managed a bow. "Sold. The specimen is awarded to Lady Aurelian, House Aerith, for the price of an entire star system and its worlds." Lucas felt the ground shift beneath him. A sun and its planets. The scale was staggering, absurd. He searched the hall for the shadowy human, but the figure was gone, swallowed by the crowd and the spectacle. The guards' demeanor changed as they led Lucas away. No longer dismissive, their movements became respectful, almost deferential. Yet the word asset, murmured in passing, struck like a slap. Lucas's new suit fit perfectly, the fabric cool against his skin, but it felt like another kind of armor, another mask. He was processed through security, biometric scans, retinal checks, whispered warnings in languages he barely understood. In a private lounge, a hologram flickered to life before him. Lord Kirill, the silver-skinned advisor, his face grave and urgent. "Move quickly, Lucas Grant. We have invested too much for further risk. The Confederacy will not accept this loss lightly." Lucas nodded, his pulse steady. "I understand. Where's Lady Aurelian?" "She awaits at the shuttle. Waste no time." Escorted by a new detail of guards, Lucas was ushered through a labyrinth of corridors, the tension around him thick as fog. At the docking bay, the shuttle gleamed like a blade, hull inscribed with sigils that pulsed in time with Lady Aurelian's heartbeat. She stood by the open ramp, silhouetted against the spill of golden light. Up close, she was even more mesmerizing. Her skin glimmered with the colors of opal and starlight, her dark eyes luminous, her figure slender and poised. She extended a hand in greeting, her fingers cool and strong. "Thank you for your actions during the attack," she said, her voice velvet smooth. "Your initiative saved more lives than you know." Lucas managed a faint smile, studying her face for any hint of artifice. "Are all humans so resourceful?" she asked, her gaze intent. He met her eyes, the spark of challenge familiar. "We tend to adapt quickly, comes with the territory." She regarded him for a heartbeat, then nodded, satisfied. "Good. You'll need that skill." They boarded the shuttle. The interior was elegant, curved glass, soft lighting, a pilot's console manned by a discreet android. Outside, Confederacy agents clustered at the edge of the bay, voices raised in protest, but Lady Aurelian moved with effortless calm. "Today they learned that some things are beyond price," she murmured, glancing back as the hatch closed. The shuttle lifted on silent thrusters, the station receding below. Through the viewport, Lucas watched the auction house shrink to a distant spark, his thoughts tangled with uncertainty. What awaited him on her flagship? What fate for the other human he'd glimpsed, the shadow in the crowd, the last echo of home? As stars wheeled outside, Lucas pressed a hand to the glass, the questions burning in his mind, and let the unknown carry him onward. The flagship Aurora's grace was beyond anything Lucas Grant could have conjured in his wildest dreams or worst nightmares. As the shuttle settled with a muted hum into the cavernous docking bay, he glimpsed rows of honor guards standing at faultless attention, their uniforms a study in symmetry and silent discipline. Their eyes never wavered, not even as Sovereign Lyra descended the ramp, opal skin gleaming beneath the banners of her house. She gestured for Lucas to follow. The air crackled with formality as they walked, each footstep echoing along corridors sculpted from flowing crystal and living metal. The walls pulsed faintly, shifting to accommodate their presence, reflecting not only light, but subtle patterns of energy. a constant reminder of the ship's sentience and security. Every intersection was manned. Soldiers saluted, staff bowed. Lucas felt the weight of 1,000 eyes, all measuring him, cataloging the earthborn anomaly now in their midst. Lyra moved with unhurried grace, a sovereign whose authority radiated from every precise motion. They entered the Royal Observatory, and Lucas paused, breath-catching. The chamber was a dome of glass and refracted starlight, suspended above the void. The galaxies spilled in all directions, radiant and indifferent. Screens and consoles floated in the air, their symbols shifting like living calligraphy. Lyra turned to her attendants. "Leave us." The room emptied at once, silent as a closing flower. Now, alone, Lyra's posture softened by a fraction. She regarded Lucas not as property, but as a peer, if only for a moment. "Sit," she said, gesturing to a low, curved bench. Lucas complied, hands resting on his knees, posture cautious. Lyra approached the viewport, eyes on the shifting stars. "You wonder why I paid a sun and its worlds for you." Lucas gave a wry smile. "I'd be lying if I said the thought hadn't crossed my mind." She looked back at him, the faintest smile touching her lips. "You forced my hand. In that auction hall, you demonstrated something my officers lack: intuition, improvisation, adaptability. Our empire is threatened on every border. The Confederacy encroaches, and our own council fractures. Our technological advantage dwindles." Her voice grew quiet, almost vulnerable. "And I am running out of time." Lucas studied her. "And you think a human can turn the tide?" "I think," she replied, "that you are an unknown variable, and right now, that is worth more than any weapon." She approached, lowering her voice. "You'll serve as a strategic consultant. Your role may evolve as trust is earned." He hesitated, then nodded, tension easing in his shoulders. "You could have asked." She regarded him, enigmatic. "In my world, asking is rarely enough." Lyra led him down a corridor, through a set of doors that irised open at her touch. His new quarters awaited, a suite of impossible luxury. Windows stretched floor to ceiling, offering a private panorama of the stars, one of which, he realized, had been traded for him. The furnishings were elegant but practical: the bed, the workbench, even a small library of alien and translated texts. Yet subtle reminders of captivity lingered. Security fields embedded in the walls, a silent observer drone in the corner. "You will find everything you need," Lyra said. "You have freedom here, within reason. Orientation begins tomorrow." She paused at the threshold, gaze unreadable. Lucas seized the moment. "At the auction, I saw someone, human or close. Who was he?" A flicker of something crossed her features, regret or calculation. "Rest," she said, sidestepping the question. "We'll speak more soon." The door sealed with a whisper, leaving Lucas alone with his questions. He moved through the suite, testing boundaries, finding some soft, others rigid. The walls responded to his touch, reshaping light and sound for privacy or openness. Food appeared at a thought, tailored to his biology. The bed was tempting, but sleep was elusive. Instead, Lucas stood at the window, watching a spiral arm of the galaxy drift by, wondering what he would become in this strange empire and what had happened to the other human presence he'd sensed in the auction's chaos. Days blurred past, marked by the rhythms of a ship at war readiness, drills echoing through the decks, officers striding with purpose, the constant flow of encrypted orders. Lucas studied, watched, learned the cadence of commands and the faces of those in power. His presence drew stares, curiosity mixed with skepticism, but Sovereign Lyra's decree shielded him from open hostility. One morning, the summons came. A pair of guards, silent and armed, led him through winding corridors to the training arena. The chamber was vast, its floor a shifting mosaic of light and synthetic stone, adaptive to any simulation. High above, in a glass-walled gallery, Lyra watched, her skin catching the light in iridescent waves. At her side stood Lord Carroll, his expression skeptical and cold. "Lucas Grant," Carroll announced, voice ringing. "You claim experience in asymmetric warfare. Let us see." Lucas faced his opponent, Commander Rin, a feline officer, her form sinewy and poised, eyes gold and unblinking. She circled, tail lashing with anticipation. "First touch," Rin said, bowing. Lucas inclined his head, reading her footwork, the twitch of her muscles. They began, Rin darting forward with blinding speed, claws sheathed, but hands lethal. Lucas sidestepped, letting her momentum carry her past, then pivoted, tapping her shoulder with an open palm. Rin grinned, delighted. Again. This time, she feinted high and swept low. Lucas rolled, catching her ankle and twisting, unorthodox, rough, nothing like the precision drills she was used to. She recovered instantly, launching a flurry of strikes. Lucas responded with unpredictable counters, channeling everything from Krav Maga to rugby tackles. The crowd of officers above began to murmur. Lyra leaned forward, eyes intent. "Enough. I wish to see for myself." The arena's hum changed as she descended, the room stilling. Lyra shed her formal robe, revealing a sleek tunic that glimmered with the colors of dawn. She stepped into the ring, barefoot and poised. "Show me," she said softly. Lucas hesitated. "You're the sovereign." Her lips curved. "Right now, I am your opponent. Hold nothing back." They circled. Lyra's fighting style was unlike anything Lucas had seen. Fluid, almost dance-like, her movements unpredictable, limbs shifting in angles that defied human anatomy. Lucas matched her, adapting on the fly, blending his own tactics with what he gleaned from her rhythm. The match was a blur of motion, grapples, feints, reversals, each testing the other, both refusing to yield. At last they locked, faces inches apart. Lyra's eyes searched his, breath mingling, her pulse a visible shimmer beneath opalescent skin. For a heartbeat, time stilled, respect, challenge, and something unspoken sparking between them. Lucas whispered, "You wanted improvisation?" Lyra's lips parted as if to answer, but before she could speak, a low rumble shook the arena. An explosion rocked the deck. Alarms howled through the corridors, an ugly, urgent sound. The gallery above erupted in chaos as officers leapt to their feet. Kareel's voice cut through the din. "Saboteurs! Confederacy infiltrators, Deck 6!" Lyra's expression hardened, all softness gone. She seized Lucas's wrist. "Come. We defend this ship, together." As they sprinted toward the exit, weapons fire echoed from the distant halls. The fate of the Empire suddenly balanced on the edge of uncertainty, and the promise of an alliance just beginning. Sirens screamed through the Aurora's grace. The flagship was under attack, no longer theory or drill, but deadly fact. Lucas skidded around a corner, pulse thundering, as the lights strobed red and the deck shuddered beneath his boots. Gunfire and energy bolts echoed in the distance. Sovereign Lyra was at his side, breathing hard, flanked by Lord Kareel and half a dozen royal guards, their faces grim. "The royal sector has been breached," barked the chief of security, a burly officer with cybernetic eyes. "Evacuation protocol is mandatory. This way, Your Grace." Lyra hesitated, gaze flickering to Lucas. For a split second, her mask of command slipped. "Do as he says," she urged, voice taut. The group surged forward, but Lucas held up a hand. "Wait, that corridor is a kill box," he said, pointing to a schematic on his wrist console. "Follow me. Maintenance shafts run parallel, no mainline sensors. I memorized the grid from my suite." Kareel scowled. "You memorized our internal schematics?" Lucas shot him a look. "Old habit. Stay close." He led them at a brisk pace, ducking into a half-concealed hatch. The passage was cramped, barely wide enough for two abreast, lined with humming conduits and emergency rations. Overhead, the sounds of battle grew louder. The guards fanned out, weapons drawn, nerves stretched tight. As they descended a spiral ladder, Lyra pressed close behind him. "You're not a prisoner, Lucas," she said quietly. Her words hung between them, charged with uncertainty. He looked back, sweat streaking his brow. "No? Then what am I?" She faltered, unable or unwilling to answer. They emerged into a secondary command center, hidden deep within the ship's armored heart. Flickering screens displayed tactical maps, damage reports, and scrolling orders. The royal party crowded in, weapons ready, as Lucas stepped to a central console. "Let me see the battle plan," he said, hands moving over the unfamiliar controls. To his own surprise, the alien glyphs resolved themselves, patterns leaping into focus, lines of attack, security lockdowns, enemy positions. He zoomed in on the data core sector, where alert icons pulsed in angry red. Kirill stared, astonished. "How can you read our systems?" Lucas shrugged. "Languages change, logic doesn't. What's the Nova Initiative?" Lyra's eyes narrowed. "That's their target," she said. "If they reach the vault, it's over." A sudden explosion rattled the room, making the lights flicker. The guards tensed, hands tightening on their weapons. "Confederacy forces are splitting us up," Lucas said. "We have minutes, maybe less. What's in the Nova Vault?" Lyra hesitated, weighing trust against necessity. "It's what keeps us ahead," she said. "A genetic program, our lineage enhanced for generations, but the traits are failing. Human adaptability is the missing element." Kirill's mouth tightened. "You were not chosen at random, Lucas Grant. We have observed Earth for generations." Lyra nodded. "Your species adapts in a single lifetime. Our people take centuries to evolve. You were selected, not purchased by chance." Lucas took a step back, the truth settling cold in his gut. "You traded a star system for a wild card." Lyra met his gaze, fierce and unapologetic. "Yes, our future depends on it." A distant blast reverberated through the bulkheads. Closer now, boots pounding in the passage outside. "We move," Lucas ordered, adrenaline lending his voice steel. They raced through battered corridors, ducking into shadows as Confederacy patrols swept by. Sparks rained from ruptured conduits, acrid smoke biting their lungs. At every turn, Lucas made split-second decisions, leading, doubling back, risking the side passages he'd mapped out in sleepless nights. Twice they barely evaded patrols, Lyra's presence steady beside him. She watched him, a question in her eyes. "You could have escaped. Why stay?" Lucas offered a crooked smile, teeth bared in the flicker of emergency lights. "Better the devil I know." They reached the vault at last, a door of living metal sealed by a prism of energy. Lyra pressed her palm to a crystalline lock. The surface rippled, revealing a chamber bathed in blue-white light. In its center, a pedestal cradled a single pulsing crystal, alive with swirling code and strands of DNA. Lyra turned to him, her voice low. "This is the heart of the Nova Initiative, our genetic code, our empire's edge. But it is failing. We have reached the limits of what we can engineer. Your capacity, your ability to improvise, to adapt under pressure, is what we lack. We need you, Lucas. Not as an experiment, but as an equal part of our future." Lucas stared at the crystal, realization dawning. "You want to merge your bloodline with mine?" Lyra nodded, her tone vulnerable for the first time. "It is the only way." A muffled explosion rocked the deck. The guards at the door fell, energy bolts cutting them down. The enemy was almost on them. Lyra seized the crystal, clutching it to her chest. "We have to go, now!" They fled, sprinting through chaos. The corridors blazed with crossfire. Confederacy saboteurs pressed in from every angle. Lucas fired a captured pistol, covering Lyra as she slid through a service shaft. Kirill followed, dragging a wounded guard. The shaft was narrow, half collapsed, but they forced their way through, battered and breathless. At last, the world opened. Docking bay, battered shuttles, a handful of loyal crew. Lucas shoved Lyra up the ramp, dove after her, and slapped the hatch as bolts scarred the hull. The engines roared, the shuttle leapt free, streaking into the black. He collapsed against the bulkhead, gasping as the flagship shrank below. Lyra knelt beside him, hand on his shoulder. The look they shared was wordless: fear, exhaustion, and a shared, unspoken bond. The shuttle descended onto a hidden sanctuary, a moon shrouded in storm clouds and secrecy. Ancient towers rose from the mists, landing pads camouflaged beneath living vines. Lyra wasted no time. She summoned her inner circle, faces grim and desperate. "We have hours at most," she said, voice steady but urgent. "The Confederacy is closing in. The Nova Initiative must proceed." Kirill's eyes blazed. "It is too dangerous. The process is untested." Lyra cut him off. "We have no choice. Lucas's adaptability is the key. The process requires neural fusion, a direct link. Our minds, our DNA, merged." Lucas stepped forward, voice rough. "I set my terms. No more ownership. I want equality, agency. No chains, no collars." Lyra's expression softened, hope flickering in her eyes. "Agreed," she said. She held out her hand, pale, elegant, trembling only slightly. Lucas hesitated, then took it, fingers closing around hers. The touch lingered, electric and intimate. The council watched, history hanging by a thread. As they prepared for the procedure, Lucas and Lyra stood together at the edge of the unknown. A trust, hard-won and fragile, bound them, an alliance born not of conquest, but of choice. Their hands lingered a moment too long, promises and possibilities suspended in that charged silence, as fate waited just beyond the door. The fusion chamber hummed with energy, every crystalline conduit aglow with electric promise. Lucas lay on a gently contoured platform, his body surrounded by faintly pulsing light. Beside him, separated only by a luminous barrier, Lyra reclined, her opalescent skin catching the shifting spectrum. Every surface glimmered with anticipation, as if the very walls understood what was about to take place. A technician in silver robes hovered near the control dais. "Initiating neural interface. Stand by, Sovereign. Stand by, Lucas Grant." The words were steady, but the undercurrent of awe was unmistakable. Lyra turned her head toward Lucas, her eyes luminous. "The process demands absolute openness," she said quietly, her voice echoing in the charged air. "If you hide any thought, the link will break, and the consequences could be fatal for us both." Lucas met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "No secrets, then." His heart pounded, but he gave a single decisive nod. The technician's fingers danced across the console. The chamber brightened, the air thickening as light built to an almost tangible force. With a soft chime, the interface activated. A current of sensation rushed through Lucas, alien, yet not entirely foreign. He felt his consciousness unravel and expand, threads of memory and feeling stretching out to meet Lyra's. Her mind brushed his, cool and ancient, infinitely complex, yet edged with a vulnerability that surprised him. Images spilled into his awareness. He saw Lyra on her coronation night, a child queen trembling in a cathedral of glass, the weight of galaxies pressing on her slender shoulders. He felt the isolation of her throne, the endless succession of advisors, rivals, and would-be usurpers, her yearning for genuine connection pulsing beneath her regal composure. In return, Lyra was flooded by Lucas's own memories. Sunlit fields of his childhood, the rough bark of trees against his palms, the taste of rain. The grit and brotherhood of the barracks, mud and fire and loss. The suffocating adrenaline of battle, the ache of wounds both physical and unseen. She felt his iron loyalty, his defiant hope, the desperate urge to survive and adapt. Their genetic codes flowed in tandem, strands of data, both organic and digital, weaving together in a luminous dance. Lyra's centuries of engineered traits entwined with Lucas's raw, mutable human DNA. He sensed her initial calculation, the cold logic that had made him a bargaining chip, an asset. But woven through that was a dawning respect, then admiration, and finally the flicker of something warmer, affection, perhaps even longing. Lyra's thoughts resonated in his mind, her presence as real as breath. Now I see why your kind is so valued. You are the storm and the shelter, the answer we could never engineer. Lucas replied, voice both thought and feeling. And I understand your strength. Centuries of sacrifice, yet you never lost your heart. Their connection deepened. Their emotions bled across the divide, fear, hope, determination, until the boundary between them thinned to nothing. Lucas's senses sharpened. He could feel the blood thrumming in Lyra's veins, the rhythm of her breath, the pulse of her thoughts. She felt the restless fire of his mind, the quicksilver adaptability that marked every human. Suddenly, a darkness flickered at the edge of their shared vision. A memory surfaced, not Lucas's and not Lyra's, but belonging to another, a presence steeped in secrecy and betrayal. Images twisted into focus. Lord Careel, face shadowed, meeting with Confederacy agents in a cloaked shuttle, exchanging codes, plans, and promises. The truth unfolded. Careel was the traitor, his loyalty sold for the promise of power. Lyra recoiled in shock, her pain lancing through Lucas's mind. Careel. He's been feeding them everything, Lucas realized, fury surging. The interface shuddered as the technician disengaged the neural link. Energy ebbed, the chamber's lights fading to a dim pulse. Lucas and Lyra sat up, breathless and altered. Iridescent patterns now shimmered along Lucas's arms and neck, a faint echo of Lyra's own beauty. His eyes adjusted instantly to the shifting light, and every sound in the chamber rang with new clarity. Lyra's gaze was brighter, her poise touched by a new, steely confidence. Alarms blared in the corridor beyond. The doors slid open and Lord Careel strode in, face flushed and desperate, a concealed blade flashing in his hand. Lyra stepped forward, voice ringing with authority. You betrayed us, Careel. Your treachery ends now. Careel sneered, lashing out at Lyra, but Lucas moved before conscious thought could catch up. His enhanced reflexes propelled him across the chamber. In a blur, he caught Careel's wrist, twisting the blade free, then pinned him to the floor with effortless strength. Careel spat curses, struggling. You're just a specimen. You'll doom us all. Lucas tightened his grip. Maybe, but I'd rather trust the future to us than a coward who sells his own people. Lyra signaled to the guards who rushed in and hauled Careel away. She turned to Lucas, her expression unreadable. Pride, gratitude, and something fiercely protective. An aide rushed in, breathless. Sovereign, the Confederacy fleet is emerging from hyperspace. Our outer defenses are engaging. Lyra took command, issuing orders in quick, clipped tones. Activate the Nova Shield. Prepare the Council for evacuation if necessary. Lucas, with me. They moved to a secure chamber, coordinating the defense. Lucas's newfound perception allowed him to track enemy movements in real time, his mind processing battle data as easily as a seasoned tactician. Lyra's decisions were faster, more daring, her judgment leavened by a touch of human unpredictability. Hours later, as the Confederacy fleet retreated, Lyra found Lucas alone in a private alcove overlooking the moonlit gardens. She approached quietly, the tension of battle finally giving way to relief. "It's done," she said, voice gentle. "And so is your status as property. The contract is void. You are now my chief advisor, with full rights, equal in all things." Lucas's breath caught. "And Orion Delta?" "Declared neutral," Lyra said. "A bridge between Terra and my empire. We rebuild together, not as conqueror and captive, but as partners." She extended her hand, palm open. "Not as a sovereign claiming possession, but as an equal offering alliance." Lucas looked at her, remembering the rush of their minds fused, every secret and sorrow shared. He took her hand, their fingers entwined, strong, certain, utterly human and utterly alien at once. "Partners," Lyra said, her voice warm with promise. The gesture was both political and profoundly personal. In that single moment, the bond forged through hardship and trust became the axis upon which two worlds might turn. The sanctuary held. The moon's ancient fortifications, woven through with living crystal and forgotten science, shuddered under the Confederacy's barrage, but never broke. Lucas moved through the command center with a new, almost alien composure, his mind processing the incoming data streams with speed and clarity that startled even him. Around the central holomap, Lyra stood poised, her eyes darting over threat vectors and comms bursts, but her leadership was no longer the measured caution of the past. Now, every move she made was bolder, more intuitive, touched by a human unpredictability that blended seamlessly with her regal bearing. "Enemy squadrons regrouping on the dark side," Lucas reported, his voice calm as he directed the defense net. "Redirect drone batteries 2 and 4. Prepare to spring the countermeasures on my mark." Lyra nodded, her thoughts touching his mind like a warm current. "They expect us to fall back. Instead, we advance, here and here." She indicated 2 flanking routes on the display. Lucas caught the logic instantly, his own ideas fusing with hers in real time. He relayed orders with a precision that left the staff in awe. "All units, split formation, lure the enemy deeper, then close the trap on my signal." Lyra's lips curved in satisfaction, her voice ringing with command. "Initiate the phase shield. Seal off the eastern approach. Now." The Confederacy forces responded with brute force, hammering the sanctuary's defenses, but every thrust met a riposte. Lucas anticipated their next moves almost before they happened, his perceptions accelerated and layered. Lyra's adaptability guided the flow, her quick pivots and inspired risks opening gaps the enemy never saw coming. Together, they choreographed the battle like a dance, minds linked in a shimmering feedback loop. When the final wave broke, and the enemy ships peeled away in retreat, a hush fell over the sanctuary. The battered defenders cheered, relief and pride radiating through the halls. Lyra acknowledged their loyalty, but her gaze found Lucas, a private smile reserved for him alone. As the last alerts faded, Lyra led Lucas away from the bustle. They slipped through a side corridor, his hand, now etched with faint iridescent patterns, fitting perfectly into hers. She guided him up a spiral ramp to the observation deck, a sanctuary within the sanctuary. Here, a wall of crystal arced overhead, framing the endless sweep of the stars. For a long moment, they simply stood together, breath mingling in the hush. The galaxy spilled across the sky, a tapestry of light and distance, and somewhere in that endless night spun the star Lyra had traded for Lucas's freedom. He felt its presence now, not as a loss, but as a promise. Lyra stepped closer, her arms circling his waist. The gesture was gentle, intimate, her touch both protective and reassuring. She rested her head against his shoulder, her crown of living metal glinting softly in the starlight. "We won," Lucas murmured, the disbelief and wonder in his voice plain. Lyra looked up, her eyes radiant. "Because of you. Because of us." She traced the back of his hand, the iridescent hues shifting with her touch. The Nova initiative changed us both. Lucas flexed his fingers, marveling at the subtle changes in his senses. I feel alive in ways I never did before, like I finally fit here, like I'm meant to be part of this. You are, Lyra said, her tone fierce with conviction. I never understood what it meant to adapt, not until I shared your mind. You taught me to trust instinct, to take risks for the sake of hope. He turned, drawing her closer. And you showed me strength that isn't just power, but compassion, purpose. For a while they let silence speak, comfortable, profound. Through their bond, Lucas sensed Lyra's memories, the centuries of solitude, the weight of her decisions, her longing for partnership beyond politics. He offered his own feelings in return, gratitude, admiration, a slow-burning affection that had grown through ordeal and choice. She broke the silence first, voice barely above a whisper. When Terra finds its way to the stars, it will find us waiting, not as conquerors, but as allies. I promise you that. Lucas traced her jaw, the gesture instinctive. And I'll be the first to greet them, with you by my side. Their connection was more than words, a resonance that pulsed through their joined hands, a gentle psychic thrum that revealed dreams and fears. In Lyra's presence, Lucas felt whole, no longer fractured by war or captivity. He sensed her pride in him, her desire for a future built together. Lyra leaned in, her breath soft against his cheek. Is it strange how right this feels? Her vulnerability, shared in private, made her seem all the more formidable. Lucas smiled, drawing her into a gentle embrace. Not strange at all, just rare, like a star traded for a life. She laughed, the sound low and bright. A worthy trade, then. Her lips brushed his, tentative at first, then sure. The kiss was a promise, a question, and an answer all at once. Their psychic link flared, amplifying the moment. Lucas felt Lyra's joy and relief, her hunger for connection. She tasted the shape of his hope, the ache of his longing. For a heartbeat, their thoughts braided together in perfect accord, trust, desire, and the fragile certainty that love could bloom even in the aftermath of war. They parted, but only just, their foreheads touching as the galaxy spun outside. We have work ahead of us, Lyra said, her hand splayed over Lucas's heart. Rebuilding, bridging worlds, facing old enemies who won't give up easily. Lucas nodded, eyes shining. We'll do it together, soldier and sovereign, side by side. They turned to the stars, partners in every sense. The challenge ahead was vast, integrating their strengths, healing the scars of conflict, forging an alliance between worlds once divided. But Lucas and Lyra stood united, transformed by choice and by trust, ready to shape the future with love as their compass and the legacy of a traded star lighting their way. That's the end of the story. You can leave us a tip or become a channel member. This greatly helps our team improve the quality of our videos. You can send a tip using the Super Thanks button right below the video. We truly appreciate each and every one of you who has subscribed and supported us. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and write in the comments what you liked most about this story. Our team will be very grateful to you. You can find even more fascinating stories on our channel. See you in the next video.